Well, I've been deep in this sleeplessness, I don't know why. Just can't get away from myself. When I get back on my feet, I'll blow this open wide and carry me home in good health. God, it's been so long, wide awake that I feel like someone else. I miss the way that you saw me, or maybe the way I saw myself. But I came back to you broken, and I've been away too long. I hear the words I've spoken, and everything comes out wrong. I just can't get this together, can't get where I belong. Who do you love? Well, I've been deep in this sleeplessness, I don't know why. Just can't get away from myself. When I get back on my feet, I'll blow this open wide and carry me home in good health. Screaming, who do you love? 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 From fable to fumble, from stable to stumble, nevermore. I'll say goodbye to my demons and all my break-evens, ever yours. I won't come back till you're broken. I won't stay away too long. Even if words I've spoken seem to still come out wrong, I get my shit back together, get right where I belong. Who do you love? Well, I've been deep in this sleeplessness, I don't know why. Just can't get away from myself. When I get back on my feet, I'll blow this.
Oh, there we go. It helps if you actually turn your mic on. Um, sorry about that. Now we'll try that again. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. What's good, as the kids say. How you guys doing? Let me get my dashboard turned on before we get started. So, as usual, while I get my dashboard turned on, let's all take a look at announcements, as we do. Dashboard, dashboard, turn on my dashboard, dashboard. There it goes. It's cool. Twitch sends me a little button on my notifications that I can just kind of pop up. So that's kind of handy. Okay, so announcements. We got a lot to talk about today. In fact, we're just going to kill for a couple minutes because I know I'm going to say it like 16 times. Not to you lovely folks, of course. The ones that are here are going to know what's going on. It's the people who show up 20 minutes late and then they send me emails and they're like, I don't know what's going on. It's like, well, come on time. It's simple, you know. Hello, Annie. Bonjour. I don't know how to say anything in French. Merci beaucoup. But that's about it. Comment ça va? Is that French? How are you? Is that a thing? No, como se va? How's it going? Isn't Spanish, isn't it? Yeah. That's Spanish. I was hoping for... what happened in my head there is I was like, okay, so it's a Romance language. It's similar to Spanish. So if I think of a word in Spanish that's like kind of what I want to ask, it might help me think of something that I've heard in French. Backfired. Just got Spanish. Oh, well. I can ask you how you are in several languages, but not French. Oh, well, actually, probably just like 3. Can I find a 4th that I know how to say? And I guess in Japanese, they'd probably be asking if you're okay. That isn't really the same thing. So 2.5. Okay, so I'm going to pull this up and just leave it on the screen. And then we can just kind of chat for a second. Why is the download link not part of the drop-down? D12, get your crap together. Get it? Just put it in a bag. Take it to the store. I don't care. Just get your crap together, D2L, Summer. Just get it together. I don't care. I need to learn that little rant. It'd be funny. Okay. I gotta make my head go away. Nope, not that one. This one? Oh, no. That's still no good. Should I just hide the chat for this part? Because I might have to. I don't want to, but I might have to. So my head's just in the way. All right, goodbye, webcam. All right, I'm here. As you guys come into the chat, I don't want to make my head really small. Okay, I know how to do this. I got an idea. Copy, paste. Oh no, that's a reference. I did it wrong. Hold on. Well, I can't duplicate it in the same. Oh shoot. Okay, I can't duplicate a source in the same scene. That makes sense. Yeah, I can see why that wouldn't do that. Okay, never mind. I'm just gonna have my head to the side. All right, viewer counts up to 21, 23. Okay, better. This is important. This is big news. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna shrink my head. It's fine. Okay, there we go. All right. So, okay, climate study survey, that part, number 1, that's still there. Chapter 6, mind tap homework. We're going to go over the last thing in Chapter 6 today. I would like that to be due Thursday. However, I'm actually happy to extend that to Friday for reasons we'll get to, because we're not going to start the exam on Friday. So there's kind of a lot of reasoning behind this, but like I said, I'm going to end up repeating myself. I'm just going to kill a minute or two. I probably just lagged there. My internet's not been very good today. This morning I've been having some issues, so I apologize. I just got a red warning light on this monitor. I have like my streaming software, and it gives me like a light green, yellow, red for my stream quality. And it just dipped pretty hard to red for a second there, which I think it's like the upload quality. So computer's fine. It's just the internet's kind of laggy. So it might be on my end today. I apologize. The good news is any VOD that I upload will be crystal clear and undisturbed. So that's the nice thing about capturing at the source instead of recording things at the end. While we're killing time, I wanted to show you guys something that was cool. I knew it existed, but I didn't know how to do it. So on my Twitch channel, which I finally have bookmarked, I'm going to show you this cool handy-dandy button. Let's say I say something, and you're like, oh, shoot, I need to hear that again, or I want to remember that. This button down here between the gear and the cafeteria tray is the clip button. Alt-X is the shortcut if you really want that. And it makes this window that looks like this. And then you can mute or unmute, and then you can click and drag for exactly how long you want the clip to be. And it goes back up to like a minute, I think, if I had like Twitch Partner or something like that you can do longer clips. But it actually works backwards in time, so not forwards in time. So you can be like, oh, dang, I'm going to need to hear that again. Click the clip button, and you can get up to 60 seconds. You can add a title like, this should be for everybody. It should be for everybody. I've clipped. If it's not, that's good for me to know. Because I know you can clip stuff for other people's channels, but I don't know exactly how it works. Yeah, so like look at what this says here. Clips with titles get more views. Help Rob L. Cook get discovered, which obviously I don't care about, but that's what Twitch people would normally want. So the idea is that anyone should be able to clip it. So you may have to hover your cursor over. So am I hearing that you guys don't see this? Because if not, that's really annoying. I don't know how to fix it. Well, I don't know how. Man. The button's there? Nice. Okay, I hate this like tiled infinite mirror thing on my stream. Alicia, did you have it? Did you get it figured out? I looked in detail yesterday, and it's not supposed to have to be turned on, as far as I can tell. It's supposed to just be there. It may be desktop only, meaning like laptop or this is just as bad. It may be only for desktop, like laptops. It may not work on mobile. That's a possibility. I don't know for sure. But that's something cool. That's handy. Where is this? Okay. All right. It's been 10 minutes. We have most of the class, so hopefully if people are going to be here, then they're here to hear it. If they're not, I don't know what to do. I'll send out an email and be like, hey, go watch the video. All right. So here's the thing. I looked and looked and looked for... Yeah, you might have to. Let me know what you figure out. I looked and looked through D2L's documentation. I looked through some of the options for Mind Tap, and I have only come up with one solution for the exam, how to actually administer it, that I like at all, and it's a little clunky. So basically, all of my wandering down the proverbial rabbit hole centered around the idea of how do I give you partial credit. And my original intention was, and I kind of talked about this last time, was that I would give you really simple problems and just ask you like step by step how to solve the problems. And that way, you wouldn't get partial credit, but I would ask you small enough pieces of the puzzle at one time that you would kind of sort of get partial credit by getting 5 questions where you would have gotten 1 or something like that. And I ran into some problems with this. Some of them are just theoretical, like pedagogical questions, but there were some technical problems as well where I wasn't able to really do what I wanted in terms of making the question generator work. So there's a thing in D2L where I can build in like formulas, and it will use, and then I can put parameters in, and it will choose random numbers subject to the restrictions that I put in. And then it will like calculate the right answer, ask you for the right answer, and if you get it, you get points. If you don't get it, you don't get it right. And it isn't powerful enough to solve some of the questions in our class. So I went through several iterations, and I won't tell you the whole process. Just know that I spent hours, like 2 or 3 hours at least, going through all this and tinkering and getting frustrated and trickling back and having allergies and picking at my eyes. If I look high, I'm not, I promise. It's pollen. I don't know if this plant right here has pollen. I don't think it does, but if it did, that would make sense, because I'm always like... But that there are other trees near me. I'm in rural Tennessee. It's just trees. That's all that's out here. Trees. Just trees. That's it. It's just trees. There's some cows across the river. Some cows over there. Otherwise, it's trees. It's just trees. I shouldn't call this rural. It's like far suburbs, but whatever. It's technically suburban, I think. Anyway. Okay, so here's what I came up with. I didn't even know how to order these bullets to make this make sense. All right, here's what I'm just going to read it. The exam is broken into different pieces. And not just like emotionally broken, where like there's a bold divider between the two, but I'm literally going to give you separate assignments. Like it's going to be under quizzes, so it's separate quizzes, but it's entirely separate areas to do. So you'll have like quiz part, or exam 2 part 1, exam 2 part 2, exam 2 part 3, and they'll be completely separate. Now, of course, they'll be the grades of which will be added together to form your exam 2 score. But in terms of taking the exam, the pieces will be completely separate. Now, conceivably, I could ask you a question about something similar on the 2 parts, which there are potential reasons why I would do that, but largely it'll be separate. The idea here is that I want you to have the opportunity to correct a mistake if you make it, especially if you just make a silly mistake. Because the long and short of it is, I was not able to find a way that you can show your work in a way that I'm happy with. For example, there used to be a function in D2L that appears to have been taken out called the long answer question format, where you could literally type your work into D2L, which, first of all, vomit at that concept. That sounds awful for you and for me. You don't want to have to type it. I don't want to have to grade it. That's just a nightmare. But it doesn't matter because, as far as I can tell, it doesn't exist anymore. So I just couldn't come up with anything. So here's what we're going to do. I've come up with 2 ways to compromise where I can help make the difference for partial credit in 2 ways. One, you can retake the exam within an interval. Not forever. And you're not going to have a whole lot of time. But depending on the length of the section, you will have a different amount of time. For example, let's say that you have one problem. It has like 4 questions within it. And I would have given you, I would have allocated in my head anyway, about 20 minutes to do the problem. I would give you, in this exam format, something like 40 minutes to work these problems. And each time that you complete the set of the questions and submit it, you'll know if you got the questions right or not. You won't know the answer, but you'll know if you got the questions right or not. And if you didn't get it right and you want to retake it, you can retake it. You'll have the same questions, but new numbers. It will generate, I don't know if there's a way for me to say, generate new numbers for each student, but only the first time. I know I can do that in MindTap. I don't think I can do that in D2L. I can look, but I don't think that's a feature. So I'm saying for now that it'll keep changing your numbers because I don't think I have a choice, but I can look. So I believe it'll give you new numbers, but you can retake the same question, and you'll have another try at it. And by the way, when I give you 20 minutes to do a problem, I'm assuming that some of that 20 minutes is already you fiddling with it, maybe doing the problem a couple times. The general rule of thumb is that I give you 3 to 5 times as much time as it would take me to solve the problem. So you should be able to solve the problem like 3 times within the time limit I would have given you anyway. So now you're going to have 6 times. So, at minimum, you should get 2 attempts at each question. Now, there is an exception here, and that is conceptual questions. So that's this parenthetical here. Whoops. That's that parenthetical. There are a couple conceptual questions. If you remember the tree diagram quiz, there are some tree diagram questions that I will give you. Those are one try only. Unless I can find... there's an alternative from it being one try only, but it would take me a lot of work. And I don't think it's not really getting the point of what I want. Meaning it's not really replacing partial credit. It's not really helping you with just silly mistakes if it's a conceptual question. So I want you to just understand those because it's conceptual. Okay. So that's the one change. I'm going to go down to the second change, and then we'll come back to this, which is the third bullet, and we'll come back to the second bullet. I don't know if this is what we want to do in terms of what should be on what order the bullet points should be, but just talking about it, this is what I want to talk about next. Okay, so number 1, multiple attempts. Number 2, the exam is open book, open notes. S. I don't know what that means. Is that S for super? S for thank you? If so, you're welcome. Maybe it's S for sharp cookie, because that's what you are. No, you're breathtaking. You're all breathtaking. That's my Keanu Reeves impersonation. I don't know if you guys have seen that video. It's actually incredibly awkward. I watched it again yesterday. Where Keanu Reeves is like, oh man, this world is going to be breathtaking. And some guy in the office is like, or in the audience is like, no, you're breathtaking. Why can't we have a normal exam? Because of a global pandemic. It's the short answer. The long answer is long. If you want to talk about it with me later, we can. Then again, I'm not entirely sure what you mean by normal exam. I mean, I can give you a normal exam and just not give you partial credit. That's real easy. But that's going to hurt. That would bring down the class average something like probably 20 points, if I had to guess. Maybe 15. This whole COVID-19 thing is a real pain. Maybe S stands for sucks. So, exam, open book, open notes, but no partial credit will be given. So, some people argue with me and they're like, Rob, why can't I use my textbook, whatever? In the real world, what really matters is getting the right answer. You know what? You're right. Getting the right answer is what matters. So with that logic, open book, open notes, but if it's not right, it's not right. Like, we really need to show work. I don't know, like, are you saying we really need to show work, therefore we should have a normal exam? Or do you mean, do we really need to show work? Because I don't think so, therefore normal exam is fine. The separate parts thing is, I was not actually going to do it this way, but D2L will not do what I want it to do, which is where I say, you have a time interval, like 3 days, we'll say. What I want it to do, and let me be very clear, this is not what's happening. This is what I wanted to do. You have 3 days available. You have any time in there you want, you can start a section. And then once you start the section, you have a certain amount of time to finalize your grade. Meaning you can take the thing as many times as you want within that time interval. No, you can't do that. What you can do is you can say, you can take the exam and you'll have a certain amount of time per attempt, but it'll let you keep attempting it for the whole interval, which isn't what I want. The only way that I can do this is to break in the exam into multiple pieces, and I can specify the amount of time you have for each exam portion. So, Um, so both of those questions are good questions. I'll get to that at the end. Let me come back to those. So let's keep going through this, and then we'll ask questions. Okay, so here's where the really annoying part happens. This is why I wasn't super happy about this. And honestly, I didn't know I had to do this until like half an hour ago. So this was a surprise to me. I realized this morning that what I thought I was going to be able to do, I can't do. So here's what's going to have to happen. And this is going to be awful. So I don't know exactly how many sections we're going to have in the quiz, in the exam. I have a practice exam made. And to get to Katie's question, we'll have to talk about how you want to actually have the practice exam put into D2L, because there's some issues there, some different considerations. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to tell me when you want to take each portion of the exam. So what I'll do is I will provide a list of how many sections there are. I won't tell you what's on them, but I'll just tell you how many there are, and I will tell you your time limit for each portion. And then you will tell me when you want to start each section. So let's say there'd be 3 portions and each one is an hour long. It won't be that way, but let's say that it is. Then you could tell me 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and 12 o'clock, and you will have 3 exams, or three mini exams, one at 10, one at 11, and one at 12. You take them back to back to back. Of course, the difficult thing is if you make 100 on the first one and you're done in 20 minutes, you have to sit there for 40 minutes and wait until the next exam. Now, this is an issue where if you have internet problems, let me know. If you have internet problems, let me know. I get that it's an issue right now. But this is the only thing I can do for D2L. I wish I had something better that I could work with. This is our best option. So, how this is going to work, I will provide you this list of what portions there are and how long you'll have. And then I'm going to make a quiz. And it's going to say something like exam 2 sign up or something like that. And then I will provide a drop-down list, or really a pair of drop-down lists, where you tell me when you want to start each section. So like you'll have a drop-down like 1 to 12, a drop-down 0 to 59 maybe. Or maybe I'll do maybe 11 a.m. I'm not going to do 0 to 59. So 30-minute intervals. Yeah, so 1 to 12, and then either like 0 or 30. And then I guess like an AM, PM. And then you tell me when you want to start each section. And then I have to go in manually and type in when everyone's taking each section. So I have to type in for every student, for every section, manually. Oh, it's going to suck. It's going to take me like 2 hours, at least. I'm not looking forward to it. Yeah. Oh, I know. It's going to be so boring, too. So, it's almost inevitable that I will make a mistake. Because if I did, you could very, very easily look at the questions and then, call someone. Spend 3 hours on YouTube, figuring out how to solve each question. Or what if a person's not available for 24 hours? There's other issues to this. I don't want you to have 24 hours continuously to take the exam. I'm happy to be flexible when you can start things, but it becomes really, really hard for me to keep any kind of academic integrity if it's just open. If I had a bigger test bank, it would be easier, but there are several questions where I have to manually define every version of the question. So if I make a single question which has 8 sets of numbers, I have to type in all 8 of the problems, like the 8 problem variations, and the 8 correct answers. I can't, like I said, D2L can't do the the math in a complicated enough manner. It's not powerful enough. And so it can't solve the problems. So I have to do everything manually. So to make the test bank would just be an enormous chore. It would be really, really miserable trying to make all the questions in a way that would make this okay. So that's the issue. And, like, what if someone works on Saturday? A lot of people right now are working 12-hour shifts. I can't expect someone to work a 12-hour shift and try and take an exam or, like, move their exam on a short notice. It's not practical, unfortunately. So this is the kind of thing where, like, I've thought of 100 variations for how this could go, and none of them are perfect. And in a lot of ways, I don't like any of them. But here we are. All right. So what I'm going to do, this quiz will be available Friday. Be open at midnight, due at midnight. So, like, Thursday at midnight, Friday at midnight. So during Friday, sometime, come online and tell me when you want to take the exam. And so it will be available. I'm thinking it'll be available Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. But I'm trying to decide. So if you can go in, no, bullet point, whatever this is. I can't highlight it. So there will be a form that you can put in. Well, I guess I need to put in a date as well. So I said hour and minute and PM, AM, but you'll need a date as well. Yeah. Okay. So I will probably make the exam available Saturday, Sunday, Monday. But if I say you can, submit the thing at Friday at midnight, I can't say, okay, you can start the exam at midnight on Friday because I won't have an opportunity to type in those scores. So maybe I'll make it do, like, you can start working at like 8 a.m. on Saturday, something like that. So I've got some time to put stuff in. What I'll probably do is, because it's going to take me a long time, and I don't want to be doing this Friday at like 1 in the morning. So I'll probably log in at Friday at 1 in the morning, download your responses into Excel, and then sort by what times you requested. Put in the first ones that are like early on Saturday, and then get the rest on Saturday. Just go to bed, do it the next day. Okay, so last comments, just a reminder, we're covering all of Chapter 4, Chapter 5, but no hypergeometric, and then normal distributions. Okay, so let's go back to Katie's question. Saturday or Sunday or Monday? Yes, Nicole. Okay, I'm going to go to a different screen to make the chat easier to read for everybody else. I think there's a way to... Oh, here's a crazy idea. How about can I do like a... Yes, on Friday, sign up for the exam, which will be on Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. I wish I could make my chat box. Let's see, can I do this? No. I would like it to have a background. There's a way to do it. I just don't know how. don't know how to do it. No. Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And you have to sign up ahead of time. All day. Sign up Friday, take test Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I want to give you 3 days. Obviously, you won't be able to take it during class on Monday, but otherwise, during my class on Monday. But partially because I recognize that this is a religious weekend. This is a religious holiday. I also recognize that that matters less than it would normally because I presume no one's having services. And which just, by the way, I feel like there is no better celebration of Passover and Easter than like being trapped in your homes. Like that is historically accurate, if I had to say. But anyway, yeah, it really tickles me actually. Like genuinely, I think it's really funny. So anyway, if you want to take it on Saturday or Sunday, yeah. Right. Of course, there's online services. I'll tell you, like, my mom is like, I can't believe they're canceling Easter. I'm like, there's a virus, Mom. And who goes to church? Like, what's the demographics of church? It's largely it's largely old people, at-risk people go to church. Like, we cannot put them all in one room. This is a terrible idea. Where's the Discord link? Great question. Over my head, scrolling in the banner, or in the button below the stream. Okay. Have I seen the Lori meme? I have not. Okay, so let's talk about the practice exam. So you may have noticed there's no practice exam available. And a good portion of that is because I wasn't sure what the best way to do a practice exam was, because I really wanted the practice exam to be representative of the format of the actual exam. And yet at the same time, a big portion of what makes this format of the exam unique, different, is this one attempt, multiple attempts, separate pieces, separate times kind of thing. And I can't really capture that in a practice exam the way that I normally would want to. Because I don't want you restricted where you can only see the exam for like an hour. That's crazy. And I don't want you to have to sign up for when you're taking the practice exam. That's not helpful. That's not the point. It's a study aid. So my question is, should we just hang the idea of having the format be representative and just give you one big practice exam where you can see practice exam questions? And then it'll be in sections, like section 1, section 2, section 3, but that'll just be like bold at the top. It'll be labeled separately, but it won't be in different pieces. Or do you want to have separate pieces so you can kind of get an idea of what that might look like, but then it won't be obvious necessarily which one is single take and which ones are multi-take, like multi-attempt, single attempt. So give me some thoughts in chat. I've kind of mulled over this, argued one side or the other. What do you guys want? I have the practice exam basically built. I have it like 75. I have an old version, an old practice exam, and I have it in D2L like 75%. And I just like paused it and I was like, okay, I want to ask the class. Okay, a couple people saying all together. How do I make a little translucent background? All right, keep it coming. Keep it coming. 2 things. What do you guys think? Nicole doesn't care. Okay, what else do you guys think? There are 30 people, at least on my dashboard. It says I've got 30 viewers. Maybe that's 30 people who have tuned in this stream. I don't know. No, yeah, 30 viewers. Come on. 3 of you have commented. 4, 5. All right, it's coming in. All right, it's coming in. It's coming. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. All together. All together. All together. All together. That's still like 7 out of 30. Okay. It's all right to have a dissenting opinion, but so far it's unanimous. All together. Okay. That's kind of what I was thinking, but communication in an online class is really hard, and I want to try to be as clear as possible. So, in fact, I'm going to clip this video and release it as a separate, like, announcements discussion for, like, new exam format. I need to cut it down a little bit, but... Okay. All right. Yeah, you can take evening times. I don't care when you take it. You can take it at 4 in the morning for all I care. Whatever you want. Just, you got to pick something. I do not care when you take it. In fact, in some ways, I like it better you take it in the middle of the night. All right, that seems pretty indicative. One person did say, whatever is most reflective of the exam. It's it wouldn't be perfect. Nothing I can do is going to be exactly right. Oh, that's helpful. It wouldn't be worth it. Is the NEAU library open? No, it's not. Do you have an open computer laptop on Monday? Because that day is available for you. I'm going to remove its highlighting. So, do the sections reflect the chapters? Do you mean, so is there a chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6 sections? No. No. Not chapter, they're not chapter sections. They are, the way that I usually word it is I have like, there's 2 ambiguous terms. I think I normally do like problems and then questions. So you have like one big problem, and inside of a big problem, you'll have like 4 or 5 questions. And so then what would be one problem is now a section. And so you'll have like, here's a question about the normal distribution, for example. That's what we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. And you basically say like, this is the normal distribution question. So this is therefore the normal distribution section. And so you have to work on normal distributions. You have an hour to answer questions about normal distributions. But then, so I don't think I would be combining chapters inside of one section, but one section would not be as exhaustive as an entire chapter, except, of course, for chapter 6, where we only have one concept, normal distributions. But, so if you guys don't have any other pressing questions, I know I've gotten some questions in Discord that I haven't had a chance to get to, and I'm sorry. I've been slaving over this, trying to figure out what to do, and I don't know how to handle these kinds of issues, guys. Nobody does. You think you do, and then, it's funny. all of the instructors were required to send an email to the dean and say, like, I, Robert Cook, am ready to teach online classes this week or whatever on like the last week. And I was like, are we though? Like, I think I know what I'm going to do. Like, I've got a plan, and you start going, and you're just like, oh, crap. This doesn't work for this reason or whatever. So I appreciate your patience. Yes, absolutely. Some of the... Sorry, I'm distracted. Reading two chat messages at once. Or reading one, then reading the other while answering the first. I can't multitask like that. Will you have answers to the practice exam? Yes, absolutely. So when you take the practice exam, it will give you the answer at the end. Yeah, so Alicia, Katie, yes, he'll have the key to the practice exam. Annie, yeah, I'm not surprised. Or more likely, judging by how faculty is. She just asked it. You're good, Katie. She just asked it. What's up in the chat box? To the right side of the screen. I guess it's like my left, but you're right. There's my left side, right? So it's my left side. The chat only stays for like 30 seconds or a minute or something. So, you're good. But I was just gonna say, Annie, it's pretty common. Professors are pretty bad about answering email. So if you get upset, like, oh, this person ignored my email, professors ignore each other too. It's just we get a lot of email. An email is like a horrifying time bomb because you don't know which one is going to take you an hour to respond to. It's amazing how it happens. Okay. Chapter 6. There's the download. You have a professor who gave up. I mean, honestly, I'm not that surprised. I shouldn't be surprised. That's kind of bad, though. All right. We have... Oh, man. That's just these times, though. What are you going to do? Oh, this shirt's too big. I liked it, so I bought it, but they didn't have it in my size. So it's kind of like wearing a sheet. Like, it just kind of swallows me. But I like it. It's a nice color. I need to go buy another one. It was cheap. It's from Target. It was like $15. I should go buy another one. Oh, wait, I can't! Maybe I can, actually. It's coronavirus. Target's open, right? So who knows? All right, let's get to it. We got 30 minutes. Off topic, by the way. Let me do this while I'm thinking about it. That's not it. Class 368. Do I have it? Did I copy it over already? I did. Looky what I did. I have a chapter 2, not chapter 2, exam 2 Jeopardy. Now, I made this for last semester, and continuous distributions has way more than you actually need in it. So that's a little bit excessive because we're only doing normal distributions, so you can kind of ignore this one. But I have a probability Jeopardy that I can put on D2L. I'll do that in a little bit. I will focus on normal distributions for now. So that's a little review game if you want to mess with that on your own time, in addition to the practice exam, which I can have finalized, especially since you lovely folks are going to let me make it into one document. I have fairly nearly completed the one document version, so I can have that up pretty quickly after class. I think I still have like a little bit left, but mostly it's almost done. I don't remember exactly how far I got, but I think I was most of the way through. Okay, so Chapter 6 is continuous probability distribution. So as you hopefully know, Chapter 5 was discrete probability distributions, which basically means uncertainty where your answers are in somewhat obvious containers. Whole numbers, for example, are a really common option. Continuous probability distributions are not like that. For example, how much liquid is in this cup? Well, I would hazard a guess as about an ounce, but unless the answer is literally 0, it's going to be something like 5.369241 milliliters, right? There's more decimal places, presumably. It's just we can't measure them. It's a floating point number. It's a decimal. It's some random collection of digits, not 5 or something. Sure, you could round it, but that's not what it really is. And so there are just things in life that are this way. They're not discrete. They're continuous. So, a continuous random variable can assume any value. Let me make this full screen for us. A continuous random variable can assume any value in an interval on the real line, or sometimes in a collection of intervals. So it might be like, it could be anywhere from 2 to 5 or 6 to 10. And it can be anything in there, for example. So as a consequence, it is not possible. It's not realistic to talk about the probability of a random variable assuming a particular value. So let's go back to my coffee cup here. If my coffee cup we're measuring in milliliters or ounces or whatever, it doesn't matter. What is the probability of having exactly 2 ounces in a cup, meaning in this container, not the fluid cup? Well, it's 0, effectively. Why? Because it's probably not actually 2 ounces. It's probably actually 2.000000000000001, if I can measure that precisely. So the chances that it's actually exactly 2 are 0. They're negligible. They might as well be 0, because if I can measure precisely enough, there will be some amount of variation off of that amount to what it actually is. So basically, the more precise the measurement you can take, the less likely it is that the value will round to 2. And so as a consequence, if you had an infinite ability to measure, you would have an infinitely small probability of a particular variable. So we don't do this. Instead, we talk about the probability of the random variable assuming a value within a given interval. Wait, can I have my thing back? Yeah, okay. Assuming a value within a given interval. So we look at area under the graph. So if you remember before, we kind of looked at like, this bar goes a certain height or something. And we kind of do that, but we're not necessarily looking in rectangles where all the chunks are the same width. We are now interested in the width of the rectangle in addition to the height, which is, of course, how you get area, right? Base times height. And it might not be linear. You may have a curve. For example, uniform, nice and rectangular, but normal and exponential distributions are curvilinear. They're not lines. So you actually have to use calculus to get the answers, which we've done for you, not to worry. But this is where the D2L examination tool falls apart. It can't do the calculations, the calculus, and doesn't have a system for like reading numbers off of a table. So this is why I have to enter things manually, is because it doesn't have a way to do it. And there's some other tools that it can't handle as well, but this is the worst one. So again, we're all concerned with these intervals. Let me use a little highlighter thing. We are concerned with the area of the shaded region. So between some lower and upper bound, x1, x2. In the case of a uniform distribution, it's just a rectangle. In the case of a normal, it's like a dented trapezoid. Not trapezoid. Quadrilateral, I suppose. There is a rectangle here. You can kind of chop a rectangle, but then it just moves the problem. Now you have a bent triangle. So, kind of still a problem. Okay, so I'm not going to test you over this, but an easy illustration is the uniform probability distribution. And it has this cool function. It's got some nice properties. Here's an example problem. So for example, maybe we're looking at, these customers, we are taking data. We believe, excuse me. We believe that customers are equally likely to fill their salad plates between 5 and 15 ounces. What is the probability that a customer will take between 12 and 15 ounces? Well, you see, between 12 and 15 is 3 out of the 15, right? There's 10 1-ounce slots here, 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 9, and so on. There's 10 of those, and we're using 3 of them, 10 or 12 to 13, 13 to 14, 14 to 15. And so, therefore, we have 3 out of 10, 30%, or the formulaic way of figuring this out is we have each interval is 1/10 of the overall rectangle, and so 3 times 1/10 is 3/10. So that's kind of how that goes. But again, we're not going to be testing you on that. I just kind of skipping through it. You can see it before. You've seen the discrete uniform already, and it works quite similarly. And so if you're getting confused on the concepts of normal distribution, go back and spend more time on that. Unfortunately, we need to talk about normal distributions. So again, we can use the idea of area under the graph of of f of x. That is the probability. They're interchangeable ideas. They're the same thing. And that's valid for all continuous random variables. That is a fact. That is a property of these distributions. It's just the way it is. So a long way of saying this is this blank here. The probability that x, the variable x, takes on a value between some lower value x1 and some higher value x2 can be found by computing the area under the graph of f of x over the interval from x1 to x2. So if that helps you, good. This is all kind of conceptual. Here's what really matters. So because we're cutting things down to only the normal probability distribution, you don't really have to know the things before this, because you're not going to have to actually do the calculus. So you don't need to understand the calculus necessarily. Okay. Here's the bread and butter. Here's the important part. The normal probability distribution. That's capital N, by the way. Capital N, normal probability distribution, is the most important distribution for describing a continuous random variable by far. Why? Because it is widely used in statistical inference. Now, a lot of people don't know what the word inference means. They confuse it with the word imply. Those are very different terms, although they're related. So an implication is something that you are suggesting without saying explicitly. For example, let's say that I tell somebody, hey man, are you possibly out of deodorant? Are you out of deodorant? I'm asking them a question about their stock of a particular hygiene product. But what I'm implying is, you smell bad, and I would like you to fix it. Right? So there's what you're saying and then what you're kind of meaning. Inference goes the other direction. Inference says, there is a lot of information available, and I'm gleaning something specific from that. I'm taking other information, and I am drawing something out of it that is not necessarily intended. In this case, we're talking about some process. It's not sentient. It doesn't have intentions, and we are learning from that. So, what do we make inferences regarding? Well, heights of people, test scores, rainfall amounts, any kind of scientific measurements. All of these things, we can make guesses about the future about particular samples, about intervals, about differences in samples, differences in populations, etc., etc., etc. All of these things are answered using applications of the normal probability distribution. And truthfully, they're not even that complicated. We basically have this simple idea that we'll talk about in Chapter 6 of how do you answer a single question with the normal probability distribution. And then we'll start saying, okay, well, what if you have two? And then you lay them side by side, or these little. It's just like one more step or two more steps, and all of a sudden we can answer incredibly powerful, incredibly meaningful questions, which is so cool. The normal distribution is unfamiliar, and a lot of students kind of struggle to pick it up at first. But it's once you get the hang of it, it's so quick. It's so easy to use. It's just weird. It's different. It's uncomfortable. It's not very user-friendly on the front end. It's just strange. But once you get the hang of it, it's very, very easy to use. It's the kind of thing of like, have you seen somebody who's really good with a chef's knife? Personally, I'm not very fast with a chef's knife. Like, I can do it, and I kind of know, like, the thing. But then you see someone who actually knows what they're doing, and they can just flat whip out a vegetable, or, like, an onion, for example. And I think that's the normal distribution. When you start out, you're like, oh, geez, I'm going to cut myself. What's going on? This is horrible. I don't know. This smells terrible because onions are awful. What's going on? And then eventually you're just like, stir fry. And, yes, you are expected to make that noise. It's part of the cooking experience. It's very part of it, yeah. My headset turned off. If anyone's chatted, I don't know. Okay, good. All right, so a little bit of history. Guy named Abraham de Moivre, if my French pronunciation is okay, published this in 1733. So it's been around for a long time. All right, so here's why you don't have to do the calculus. It's not actually as hard of an integral as it looks, but it's not easy. It's not super easy. It's genuinely not as bad as it looks. It's not as bad as it looks, but you don't have to do it. So I'm just going to leave. Okay. I'm going to give you a table with all the answers already on it. However, the trick is, how do you use the table? Well, we'll get there. That's where we're going towards. How do we use the table? So, some characteristics of the normal probability distribution. 1, it is symmetrical or symmetric, which means that the right side looks exactly the same as the left side, but mirror it on the mirror image. So, very, very similar there. The entire family, so all normal probability distributions are defined by their mean, mu, and their standard deviation, sigma. So those are the same symbols we've used before, right? Mean, standard deviation, for a population. And that entirely defines the mean and standard deviation. So when you have the formula and you have the mean and standard deviation, you have everything you need to know. So it's instead of me giving you characteristics and you having to figure out the mean and the standard deviation, I will just give you the mean and the standard deviation because those are what you need to define the probability distribution in the first place. So the mean tells you where the distribution is centered. So where's the center line? Is it here? Is it here on the number line? Is it here on the number line? Is it there on the number line? So on. And the standard deviation tells you how wide the distribution is. Also, fun fact, the highest point on the normal curve is at the mean, which means that the mean is also the median, which is also the mode. So the mean is also the middle point, and it is the most commonly occurring point. So all of the common measures of central tendency are all the same. So that's nice. Now, the mean can be any numerical value. It doesn't have to be positive. I can give you an example where it has to be positive, right? So I can say, like, if I attempt to fill a coffee cup relatively full, what amount of liquid can I put in? Well, obviously, it doesn't make any sense to put negative values of a coffee cup But I could also say, what is my average change in bank balance month to month? Well, it's hopefully positive, but there are going to be months where it's negative, right? So maybe you have a bad year and your average is negative. Could happen, especially this year, right? Yikes. So, yeah, oof, as the kids say. Big oof, I've been told. So, yeah, mean can be anything. The standard deviation, like I said, determines the width of the curve. Larger values result in wider, flatter curves, whereas smaller numbers represent taller, skinnier curves. So, you have like a spike if it's a small number. You have a bump if it's a big number, relatively speaking. Depending on your mean, these may be very, very small numbers. The sigma, like if you have a mean of 1,000 and your sigma is 15, that's going to be somewhat less consequential. But anyway, general property. Whew. Okay. So again, probabilities for our variable are given by areas under the curve, which means when you solve normal distribution problems, you usually want to solve them by drawing pictures. You want to draw pictures. So you draw the little curve, right? The bell-shaped curve, which you may have seen in another class or seen before or heard of before, the bell-shaped curve. And then you can draw slices. You can say like, what's the probability of being between... let me use the actual pen. You could say like the probability of being between here and here. And then you have this visual, which you can use to help you answer the question. But something to be aware of is that, remember, this distribution is symmetrical, right? It's symmetric. So that means half has to be to the right of the mean and half has to be to the left of the mean because it's symmetric. That's a requirement. That's what symmetric means. Half to the left, half to the right. Exactly half. Which means that you can start to make your problems easier by understanding where, like, what certain portions are and what certain portions aren't. Meaning this portion is 30%, that portion isn't 30%, and the whole thing is 100%. So if this portion isn't 30%, then it's 70% or something like that. So you can start to work your way around the numbers as it is convenient. Okay, so some kind of numbers to have in mind. They're not super important, but basically the normal distribution is a consistently defined distribution based on the standard deviation. So no matter what the mean is, we know that based on the standard deviations, we can just figure out how much of the probability is within a given number of standard deviations. And I don't want you to try to memorize this, but the point is that when you get up to 3 standard deviations, plus or minus 3 standard deviations, so 3 above and 3 below, or I guess 3 above, 3 below from your perspective, you have 99.7%. So you got pretty much all of the probability with just 3 standard deviations. And that's what that looks like. So again, it's plus or minus. But I don't want us to focus on this. Okay. So how do we use it? What do we actually do with it? Well, there is this really cool thing that we can kind of create or we can convert to. So there is a regular normal probability distribution where I just give you a mean and a standard deviation, and we can try and do some work, but you're going to have to do the calculus. Or you can convert to a standardized normal probability distribution, which it's like what clothing should be. I think guys' clothes are pretty good about this, but women's clothes are awful. That people will just be like, oh, this is a size 2. And that doesn't mean anything. Like it's supposed to, but it doesn't. And ladies know what I'm talking about. It's supposed to be something. It's supposed to be standardized, where a thing means a thing. But it doesn't. It's not consistent. Now, that's only true in fashion. In probability, standards are standards, and they must be enforced. So, a standard normal probability distribution. A random variable having a normal distribution with a mean of 0 and a standard deviation of 1. Mean of 0 and a standard deviation of 1. This is said to be a standard normal probability distribution, which can happen by accident, but more often we're converting to it. Okay, mean of 0, standard deviation of 1. So just as a reminder, that's mean 0, standard deviation of 1. Okay. So we use the letter Z to designate the standard normal random variable, which is just, an arbitrary choice. It's still a normal distribution. It doesn't look any different, but it's specifically centered at 0 and sigma of 1. Okay, so that's all well and good. Here's what matters. You can convert to the standard normal distribution with this Z equals x minus mu over sigma formula. So if you look at it, what is x minus mu? Well, so you have the minus symbol is literally what? The difference, right? It's the difference between x and mu. So we can think of this as how far apart are x and mu. Okay, that's x minus mu. That's what that is. Or more specifically, how far above mu is x? So that's what we get by x minus mu. How far above mu is x? And then, how far above so we take that amount, how far above mu is x, and we divide it by the standard deviation. Which is like saying, that's the standardizing part, is we say, okay, in terms of standard deviations, how far apart is the mean from the point? Because think of it like if it's 10,000 and 10,005, that's really, really close, right? 10,000 versus 10,005 is very, very close because 10,000 is a big number. So, but what if the process is really, really precise? Like, what if you get 10,000 every single time? Maybe it's 10,000.05 or 10,000.09, but it's pretty much 10,000 every single time. Well, now 10,005 sounds like a lot because it should have been 10,000.05 and it's 10,005. It's 100 times more variation than normal. That's a really big deal. So it's not about the scale of mu, it's about the scale of the standard deviation. So how much variation do you have is everything. So this tells us how many standard deviations above the mean is our value x. And then we can use this with a set of tables to just look up the answer. Look up our probabilities. We can look up the area under the curve using a table. So how does this work? Let's say we have Pep Zone, which is in no way related to Pep Boys or AutoZone. We have Pep Zone, which sells auto parts and supplies, including a popular motor oil. When the stock of the oil drops to 20 gallons, a replenishment order is placed. Now, let's say especially in the times of coronavirus, the stock manager is concerned that sales are being lost due to stockouts while waiting for a replenishment order. Obviously, motor oil is not a substitute for toilet paper, so he's not getting rushed as bad as everybody else, but, still an issue. It has been determined that demand during the time it takes to get his order in is normally distributed with a mean of 15 gallons and a standard deviation of 6 gallons. Okay, so let's pick out some keywords here. Let me get my writing surface. Pick out some keywords. Come on, iPad. Turn on. So, keywords. mean of 15 gallons. That's one. There we go. And a standard deviation. Oh, no. I'm doing it again. Please, can I have my tools? No? Oh, they're over here now. Oh, okay, cool. Eraser. Sorry. I can do it. Oh, I see what it's doing. I don't like that. Why is it doing this? Fine. I'll just use my mouse. Okay, standard deviation of 6 gallons. So that means we have mu equals 15. Sigma equals 6. Okay. Let's keep reading. Okay, well, I misclicked it. Well, we're running out of time. Okay, last thing is x is 20. See, right there at the bottom. X is 20. Okay, step 1. Convert to the standard normal distribution. Okay, we just plug in our numbers. So remember, we had x equals 15. I'm sorry, mu equals 15. Sigma equals 6. X equals 20. So those came from the previous slide. And we just plug them in. So x, okay, that's 20. All right, x 20, plug that in. Mu, that's 15, plug that in. This amount subtracted, which is 5, divided by the standard deviation of 6. 0.83. Okay, what do we do with that? Well, I'm so glad you asked. We look at the table to find the area under the curve for the standard normal table. So, our table is a little wacky. So you see on the left we have point something. Now this could be 1.3, 1.6. As these numbers continue to go up by 0.1, and then the column headers go up by 0.01. So this is an excerpt of the rows, but it is all of the columns of the table, and it goes from, in this case, 0.050, which is right here, up through 0.099, which is this one over here. But what do we need? 0.83, right? That's what we got right here, 0.83. So we look down here for 0.8, and then we add 0.80, 0.81, 0.82, and here we are, 0.83. So now this is a cumulative distribution. It's that probability and everything to the left. Remember, the probability of an exact number is meaningless. What we care about is an interval. So in this case, we have found that the chances of getting our order within 20 days is 83%. I'm sorry, or this is about the demand. The demand being 20 or less is 83%. 83% chance of having demand of 20 or less. But we wanted to know about what's the probability of, the 0.83 is the 0.83 is the number of standard deviations. The probability is 0.7967. I apologize. 0.7967 is the actual probability itself. That's the probability of your demand being what your safety stock is. But the question is, what about overstocking? So this is the 0.7967 is the probability of not going over. So what's the probability of going over? Well, it's whatever isn't the probability of not going over. So it's not the probability of not going over. So 1 minus 0.7967, 0.2033. And so that's that's the process. That's how you solve all the problems for normal distributions. There are some like mixing and matching and some issues like that. So I don't think there's anything too crazy on the homework. I can take a look at it and make sure. But that's it. That's the process. So we are out of time, over time, in fact. But that's it. That's the idea. And here's the graphical representation of what that looks like. So I told you before, drawing pictures is always really helpful. So you draw yourself a curve for the total probability. You hit a button. I hit a button. No, my ink. No, that's fine. I didn't really want the ink. Why are you doing this to me? What is happening? There we go. It's working again. Okay, so you draw your curve, and then you say, 0.83 to the right of 0. And then, so when you look it up, you're going to get this one, which is not what you want. You want the area to the right, so you subtract from 1. So this idea of drawing pictures and things like that will be really helpful. But that's all we have time for. So we'll have to leave things off there. I'm happy to stick around and answer any questions you have about the exams or anything like that. I'll get the practice exam put up here in the next few minutes. And then if you've emailed me questions or Discord PM'd me any questions, I'll get to that right afterwards. So I apologize. I've seen them. I just haven't had a chance to get to them. I've been trying to get this practice exam thing figured out. Like I said, it's a mess right now. Do you guys remember that weird commercial that was like, and remember, it's a jungle out there? That's basically how it feels. Yes, 2 assignments. Bye, Annie. Are the tables given for the homework? They're in the textbook. So I don't think they're nested in the homework assignments themselves. But if you go to the ebook on MindTap, there's the thing of tables, and it'll open up side by side with the homework. Because I'm pretty sure the assignments themselves open in the left half, and then the book opens on the right half of the screen, which I'm saying it backwards from your perspective. Left half and right half of the screen, and then you can have the table pulled up while you work on the homework. If not, you can just Google standard normal probability distributions, but you have to be careful. Make sure the numbers match, because there's a couple different ways it can be formatted, and so you can get different numbers depending on how you do it. So make sure the numbers match, or you're going to be in trouble. If you have any questions about that, you can let me know. So just use the ones in the book and you'll be fine. That's the short answer. Okay, I'll be here. I'll be hanging around. I'll cut the video here, cut the stream here. If you have any more questions, I'll be hanging around. See you.